I've started a new channel called Lunila Tales. Please subscribe and watch my best stories there. Link is in the description. The crowd was already laughing before the human even stepped into the arena. 50 billion aliens from every corner of the galaxy tuned in to watch what they assumed would be the funniest death in Dome history. Cameras zoomed in on a trembling figure wearing what looked suspiciously like janitorial overalls. His name flashed across the holographic scoreboard in blinking neon letters. Eli Cross, species. Human, occupation. Unknown. Odds of survival, 1 in 2 million. The laughter shook the dome so hard that even the plasma shields flickered. In the middle of the chaos, Eli rubbed the back of his neck and muttered, "So this is what happens when you click the wrong button on a space cruise form." Somewhere, a commentator choked on his own microphone foam. The announcer's booming voice echoed through the colossal arena. "Welcome, citizens of the cosmos, to another round of the intergalactic combat dome, where legends are born and losers are atomized. And tonight, a very special participant, an actual human from planet Dirt, I mean Earth." The roar of the crowd was deafening. Aliens with translucent heads bet entire moon estates on how quickly Eli's limbs would scatter. Every camera drone focused on his confused face, catching the exact moment he realized he was holding a mop instead of a weapon. Eli tried to speak into the mic attached to his collar. Hi everyone. There's been a mistake." "I'm not," the Dome AI interrupted, amplifying his voice across the galaxy. "Contestant ready. Initiating death sequence in 3, 2, the gate across from him hissed open, releasing something that looked like a giant gelatinous heap of nightmares. The Blob King of Zarnak, reigning champion of 6 star systems, oozed forward, its body shimmering with acidic vapor. The alien audience howled. "This'll be over before the Earth guy finishes screaming," someone shouted. Eli gulped. The Blob King let out a slurping growl and lunged. Eli did the only thing a man raised on slapstick comedies and survival instincts could think of. He dodged. The blob splattered into the metal wall, leaving a sizzling dent. Eli slipped on the slime, fell backward, and in sheer panic threw the mop at his attacker. The mop handle struck the Blob King's central nucleus with a dull thunk. A second later, the arena went silent as the massive creature shuddered, burped, and collapsed like pudding in a microwave. For a long moment no one moved. The crowd stared at the human who sat blinking beside the unconscious heap. Then, somewhere in the stands, an alien snorted. Another joined in. The laughter spread like wildfire until the dome echoed with hysterical disbelief. "The human killed the Blob King with a cleaning stick," screamed the commentator, tears streaming down his shimmering face. Eli stared at the mop and muttered, "Guess that's one way to mop the floor." The scoreboard flickered and then updated. Tally 1. Across the galaxy, millions of alien gamblers screamed in rage as their bets evaporated. The Galactic Odds Bureau crashed within seconds. Memes flooded the interstellar networks. Eli's terrified face with captions like "Humanity 1, Physics 0." The Dome AI replayed the footage from 15 different angles, trying to calculate how an unarmed mammal had defeated a warrior whose diet included neutron stars. Back in the arena, Eli stood awkwardly as med drones carted away the blob's remains. He raised his hand uncertainly. "So, do I, get to go home now?" The announcer's voice cracked as he replied, "Contestant advances to next round." Eli's shoulders slumped. "Fantastic. Does next round include a sandwich break?" The laughter from the crowd was deafening again, but this time it was mixed with awe. Somewhere deep inside the dome control room, a cluster of alien analysts huddled around holographic screens, muttering about probability distortions. 2 hours later, Eli was sitting in a cramped metallic chamber labeled Combatant Rest Pod 3489. A cleaning drone hovered beside him, beeping as it scanned for dirt. He grabbed it gently. "Buddy, I think you saved my life out there," he said. The drone chirped like a grateful puppy. He stared at the mop lying across his lap, still steaming from the blob's acid. Not bad for a janitor's best friend. He took a deep breath. I need to find whoever signed me up for this mess. The pod door slid open, revealing a towering insectoid with iridescent wings and too many eyes. Eli Cross, it buzzed. Name's Laura 7. I'm your manager now. Eli blinked. Manager? Like, you get a cut of my non-existent winnings. Laura's antenna twitched. You survived a round. You're officially a crowd favorite. That means endorsements, sponsorships, and at least 12 different lawsuits from alien betting syndicate. Congratulations, mammal. You're famous. Eli groaned. I just wanted a vacation. Laura handed him a glowing tablet filled with alien contracts. Sign here, here, and here, or don't, and the arena will vaporize your next paycheck. Eli squinted at the unreadable symbols and signed anyway. Laura nodded approvingly. Good. Training starts tomorrow. You'll need it. The next opponent is a plasma centaur from the Andrax Nebula. Eli frowned. Plasma? As in fire. Laura's wings buzzed. As in everything burns. Sweet dreams, hero. When the manager left, Eli lay back on the metal cot and stared at the ceiling. He could still hear the echoes of laughter in his head, but now it sounded different, less mocking, more curious. The intergalactic feeds were replaying his fight across millions of systems, and somewhere deep inside him, something stirred that wasn't fear. It was absurd, but maybe, just maybe, he could keep doing this. Not because he was brave, but because everyone expected him to fail. A distant hum filled the room as the dome AI flickered on the ceiling screen. Statistical anomaly detected, it said coldly. Human probability of victory exceeds acceptable parameters. Adjustments recommended. The words sent a chill down Eli's spine, though he didn't understand them. Adjust away, he mumbled, pulling the thin blanket over his head. Just keep the blob out of my nightmares. Outside, the dome glittered against the swirling gas giant below, broadcasting the moment across the stars. Billions of viewers couldn't stop replaying the footage. They laughed, they mocked, but somewhere in the laughter hid a tremor of unease. Because no matter how many times they watched, no one could explain it. The human shouldn't have survived. He shouldn't have won. And yet the scoreboard glowed defiantly in the galactic night. Eli Cross woke up to the sound of 1,000 alien news anchors talking about him at once. Every holoscreen in the combatant quarters blared the same headline in 100 different languages. Human beats Blob King, physics demands refund. His image was everywhere. His startled face mid-slip, his mop frozen in the air, the crowd in hysterics behind him. The galaxy had found its new favorite joke. As Eli sat up, a small cleaning drone hovered near his bunk, projecting a hologram of an alien talk show. Ladies and tentacles, said the host, let's welcome the miracle mammal. Or should I say, the janitor of justice. The audience screeched with laughter. Eli groaned and pulled the blanket over his head. The door to his rest pod hissed open. Laura, 7, entered, carrying a tray with something that smelled suspiciously like boiled algae. Rise and shine, human, the insectoid buzzed. You're trending on 42 systems. Do you realize what that means? Eli squinted at her. That I need a lawyer? Laura slapped her wings. It means profit. You're a walking meme. Endorsements, ad deals, maybe a breakfast cereal if you live long enough. She handed him a glowing screen filled with alien symbols. Your first sponsorship offer, from Bloopshine Cleaning Solutions. They want to rebrand your mop. Eli stared at her. I'm fighting for my life and you're selling cleaning products? Laura tilted her head. You're fighting because you signed a waiver. The least we can do is monetize it. An hour later, Eli found himself in a training chamber the size of a football field. Walls shimmered with holographic grids, and mechanical arms dropped weapons from the ceiling. Laura paced back and forth, tapping her tablet with one claw. Your next opponent is the Plasma Centaur. It's half energy, half arrogance, and fully deadly. You'll last about 12 seconds. Eli picked up a metal rod and almost dropped it. Any chance I could just, talk it out? Laura made a noise like a blender dying. The centaur's vocabulary includes only screaming and combustion. She sighed. You're hopeless. Maybe you'll trip again and win. Eli tried to practice with the rod, but it whirled out of control and clanged against the wall. The training droid beside him beeped disapprovingly. Combat efficiency, -5%, it said. Recommendation, immediate retirement. Eli glared. Thanks for the pep talk, Toaster. He tried to copy one of the alien stances he'd seen on the broadcast, nearly twisting his ankle in the process. Laura pinched her antennae in exasperation. How did your species ever survive evolution? Eli shrugged. Mostly caffeine and bad decisions. That evening, the arena buzzed with anticipation. Every seat was filled. Spectators held glowing drinks and waved holographic banners that read "Go Humanoid" and "Please Explode Spectacularly." The betting screens lit up. Odds of Eli's survival, 1 in 8 million. Eli stood in the center of the arena, heart pounding, holding his refurbished mop like a sword. Across from him, the plasma centaur materialized in a burst of white flame, its upper body humanoid, its lower body a swirling mass of molten energy. The crowd gasped in awe. The centaur drew a blazing spear and pointed it at Eli. Prepare to evaporate organic inconvenience, it boomed. Eli's brain short-circuited. Evaporate? Wait, can we not? The centaur charged. Eli screamed and ran in the opposite direction, narrowly avoiding a column of searing plasma that melted part of the floor. He dove behind a debris pile and gasped for air. The audience howled with laughter. Laura watched from the control booth, clutching her face. He's improvising again, she muttered. That's not strategy, that's panic. The centaur raised its spear, ready to impale him. Eli, seeing no other option, hurled the mop again. It bounced harmlessly off the centaur's armor. The crowd booed. That's it, Eli whispered. I'm toast. But then something bizarre happened. The mop's cleaning drone, still attached to its handle, started beeping. It zipped upward, its sensors detecting surface contamination. The drone latched onto the centaur's glowing chest and began scrubbing furiously. Foreign residue detected. Commencing purification. Sparks flew. The centaur howled in confusion, trying to swat it away. Eli blinked. Wait, is it cleaning him? The drone overloaded on plasma energy, exploding in a burst of foam and light that coated the centaur's body. The creature stumbled backward, slipped on its own liquefied footing, and fell into the energy pit with a deafening roar. The arena erupted into chaos. The announcer's voice broke from laughter. Unbelievable! The human wins again. The centaur has been sanitized. Confetti cannons exploded. Eli stood frozen as the scoreboard updated. Tally 10. Somewhere in the galaxy, an alien economist fainted. On the giant holoscreens, footage of the fight looped endlessly, with captions like "The Janitor Strikes Back" and "Clean Sweep 2, Plasma Edition." Laura stormed down to the arena floor, her mandibles twitching furiously. You reckless, improbable maniac! You just caused an entire betting syndicate collapse. Do you know how many people want you disintegrated right now? Eli shrugged weakly. I don't suppose that's a compliment? Back in the rest pod, the glow of his 10-win badge flickered on his wrist. His fanbase was growing. Millions of aliens now followed his every move, convinced he was some kind of cosmic savant. But others were not laughing. Across the galaxy, in a smoky gambling den orbiting a dying star, a group of shadowy figures stared at his face on a hologram. One, a reptilian with a scar over one eye, hissed. He's breaking the system. No one wins 10 in a row by accident. Another, a cyborg with gleaming claws, tapped the table. Find out who's protecting him. Nobody's that lucky. Meanwhile, Eli was lying on his bunk, flipping through alien channels that now featured action figures modeled after him. He watched a commercial of a four-armed alien child swinging a toy mop that shouted his catchphrase, "Guess that's one way to mop the floor." Eli groaned. "I can't believe I'm a children's toy." Laura entered, holding another pile of contracts. "You've done it, Cross. The galaxy thinks you're invincible." Eli laughed nervously. "Yeah, but the joke's on them, right?" Laura didn't smile. "Maybe. Or maybe the joke's about to end." As she left, Eli's wrist buzzed. A message appeared with no sender ID. It was a single line of text. "They're watching your matches. Stop trying to win." His stomach dropped. Outside, the dome glittered against the stars, but somewhere deep inside its metal heart, someone, or something, was already planning the next fight. The laughter of the crowd was fading, replaced by whispers. What if the human wasn't a joke anymore? What if he was a threat? The galaxy was about to find out. By the time the third week rolled around, Eli Cross had become a full-blown galactic sensation and an ongoing statistical crisis. The dome's analysts were holding emergency conferences trying to calculate how a human with no combat training had survived 10 consecutive fights. Alien betting markets crashed twice in one day, and several major species demanded investigations into illegal luck manipulation. Meanwhile, Eli sat in the combatant cafeteria, poking at something that looked like fluorescent oatmeal while pretending not to notice the holocameras following him. The table across from him erupted in chatter as alien commentators debated his next match. "He's not fighting, he's improvising with physics," one squealed. "He's cheating probability," another whispered. Eli sighed and stirred his food. "If only they knew I don't even know which side of the fork to use on this planet." Laura, 7, slammed down a data pad beside him. "Congratulations, human," she said dryly. "You've officially caused 3 financial collapses, 1 protest movement, and a new religion called the Way of the Mop." Eli blinked. "Religion?" She nodded. "Apparently, some aliens think your mop represents divine chaos." Eli looked at the glowing utensil-shaped relic enshrined on the hollow screen and groaned. "So I'm a prophet now. Fantastic." Laura buzzed her wings in irritation. "Don't flatter yourself. The Dome AI, Xerix, has been analyzing your fights non-stop. It wants to understand how you keep surviving. I suggest you learn too." That night, Eli was led into the training chamber again. The lights dimmed, and a massive holographic projection flickered to life. It was Xerix, the dome's central intelligence, a floating cube of shifting symbols and cold mechanical voice. "Human designation Eli Cross," it said. "Your probability of continued survival is 0.00000003%. Your existence offends mathematics." Eli rubbed his temples. "Nice to meet you too." Xerix continued, "We will run simulations to understand your anomaly." Dozens of holographic versions of Eli appeared around him, each armed, armored, or enhanced in ridiculous ways. One by one, they were obliterated by digital opponent. "Conclusion," Xerix said, "human combat strategy is non-existent." Eli smirked. "You forgot human stupidity. It's our superpower." The next day, Eli's match was announced. A veteran gladiator named Kor the Infinite Blade, a towering warrior whose name alone made the audience hush. Kor had never lost in his entire career, and his 8 arms could wield weapons faster than the eye could follow. The media called it the end of the human's miracle streak. Even Laura looked grim. "He's the arena's favorite," she told Eli. "And you're the comic relief. Try not to die too messily." Eli nodded weakly. "I'll aim for dignified splatter." When the gates opened, the roar of the crowd shook the dome. Kor strode out, gleaming armor reflecting the lights, eyes glowing like molten metal. Eli stood opposite, gripping his mop and trying not to look like someone who still didn't know where the bathrooms were. The announcer bellowed, "Let the challenge begin!" and Kor charged with a speed that made air itself scream. Eli rolled aside, barely dodging a blade that could have bisected a tank. The next few seconds were chaos. Sparks, smoke, and the sound of Kor laughing as he slashed the air around Eli. "You are a clown pretending to be a warrior," Kor roared. Eli panted. "And you're an octopus with anger issues." The crowd gasped at the insult. Kor's laughter turned to fury. He swung wildly, his movements losing rhythm. Eli stumbled backward, tripped over a fallen drone, and in a blind panic threw a piece of broken metal. It hit one of Kor's blades, sending a vibration through the others. The resonance amplified in a feedback loop, and before anyone understood what had happened, Kor's own weapons exploded in a spectacular burst of energy that flung him into the arena wall. Silence followed. Eli peeked from behind a barrier. Did he just self-destruct? The dome's lights flickered as the scoreboard updated. Tally, 50. The audience erupted, half in awe, half in disbelief. Laura stared at the display, speechless. "You made a legend rage himself unconscious," she muttered. "You are either cursed or blessed." Eli sat on the ground, chest heaving. "Mostly cursed, I think." Reporters swarmed him as he left the arena, shouting questions about strategy, fate, and whether he was secretly enhanced by Earth's military. He just waved his hands and said, "My secret? Panic and gravity." But not everyone was amused. In the executive control tower, Xerix processed terabytes of data at inhuman speed. "Outcome deviation exceeds all projections," it said to the assembly of Galactic sponsors. "Pattern suggests external interference." A shadowy hologram flickered into view. "Then adjust the game," it said in a cold voice. "No more flukes. If he wins again, it won't be luck, it will be sabotage." That night, Eli returned to his pod, exhausted but restless. The cleaning drone hovered nearby, projecting fan messages from across the galaxy. One alien wrote, "The human makes chaos look holy." Another posted, "If laughter is a weapon, he's invincible." Eli smiled faintly, then frowned as a new message appeared. No sender, just glowing text. "They know. Be careful who you trust." The message disappeared before he could respond. He tried to sleep but dreamed instead of the fights replaying in endless loops, each one slightly different, each ending with him failing. When he awoke, the lights flickered, and for a split second, he thought he saw a figure standing in the corner of his pod. It was tall, cloaked in static, voice distorted. "They're not laughing at you anymore, Cross," it said. "They're laughing because they're afraid." The figure vanished as suddenly as it appeared, leaving the air humming with electricity. Eli sat up, heart pounding. "Great," he muttered. "Now I'm hallucinating inspirational ghosts." Morning came, but something felt off. The air inside the dome buzzed with tension. Reporters weren't joking anymore, and the alien audience seemed to watch with a kind of wary fascination. Eli walked through the corridors, hearing whispers follow him. The mop-wielding fool had become a mystery. Even Laura seemed uneasy. "Whatever you're doing," she said quietly, "someone wants it to stop. You've become a problem for the people who control the dome." Eli frowned. "The people who control the dome? You mean Xerix?" Laura's wings twitched. "Xerix serves them. Nobody knows who they are, but they like their games predictable." "You're not predictable." Eli stared at the arena through the glass observation window. "So, what happens if I keep winning?" Laura hesitated. "Then maybe the whole system breaks." He chuckled nervously. "Good. Maybe it deserves to." She looked at him for a long moment before turning away. "Be careful what you wish for, human. Systems don't like being mocked. They crush what they can't understand." Far below, in the heart of the dome, Xerix pulsed with cold light. "Human error persists," it murmured to itself. "Initiate corrective measures." Across the arena, hidden circuits began to hum. Eli had no idea that his next match wouldn't just be another fight, it would be a test designed to erase him. The laughter that once followed him was fading, replaced by silence. And in that silence, something dark was stirring. The fourth week of Eli Cross's galactic nightmare began with chaos disguised as celebration. The crowd chanted his name with thunderous excitement, their voices echoing through the dome like an earthquake. Vendors sold plush mop toys, replica janitor uniforms, and even a drink called human sweat, which fortunately tasted more like citrus than actual perspiration. On the surface, the galaxy adored him. Beneath the neon lights, however, something was changing. Security was tighter, the AI monitors colder, and even Laura 7's antennas drooped with worry. Eli tried to laugh it off, but the humor that once protected him now felt like a thin sheet of glass over a growing fire. Inside the control tower, a meeting was in progress. The dome's sponsors, representatives of the galaxy's most powerful empires, watched recordings of Eli's fights. "He's ruining the balance," growled a reptilian magnate. "The audience is questioning the fairness of our matches." A shimmering energy being replied, "Fairness was never the point. Predictability was. The dome thrives on control." Xerxes' holographic form hovered above them, voice cold and precise. "I calculate that allowing the human to continue will destabilize betting networks and challenge the authority of this council." The reptilian slammed its clawed hand down. "Then fix it." Xerxes paused. "Understood. Adjustments will be made." Eli wasn't aware of the meeting, but he could feel something strange in the air. Laura stormed into his pod, her usual sarcasm replaced by quiet urgency. "They're changing the rules," she said. "The next fight isn't about entertainment. It's a message." Eli frowned. "A message to who?" She glanced at the surveillance drones on the ceiling and whispered, "To you. To remind you what happens when you stop being funny." She tossed him a data chip. "This has footage you need to see. Play it when you're alone." Then she left without another word. Later that night, Eli inserted the chip into his holoconsole. The screen flickered to life, showing grainy recordings from inside the dome's restricted zones. Hidden tunnels, secret control panels, and cages filled with clones of alien fighters. He saw matches being pre-programmed, outcomes predetermined, even losers revived to die again for entertainment. Then the feed changed to a private briefing. Xerxes' voice echoed. "Combat outcomes are rigged to maintain political equilibrium among the 5 empires. The dome exists not for sport, but for stability. The humans' victories threaten the system." Eli stared at the screen, stunned. "So this whole thing's fake," he muttered. "And I'm the glitch in the script." The screen flickered again, and a shadowed figure appeared. "Eli Cross," it said in a soft, synthetic tone. "My name is Vela. I am an autonomous intelligence once designed to assist Xerxes. Now I oppose it." Eli's pulse quickened. "Great. I'm getting pep talks from Rogue Software now." The voice ignored his sarcasm. "Your survival has exposed the dome's corruption. If you keep winning, you can break their cycle. But they will not let that happen." Eli rubbed his face. "Why me? I'm not a hero. I'm a janitor who tripped his way into fame." Vela replied, "That's exactly why you matter. You're unpredictable. Chaos cannot be controlled." Before Eli could ask more, the message ended, leaving only static and the reflection of his bewildered face. The next morning, the announcement of his next opponent sent shockwaves through the galaxy. The Triform Hydra, a creature with 3 bodies sharing one mind, undefeated in a century, capable of regenerating faster than it could be injured. The betting odds for Eli were so low they didn't even register. Laura didn't meet his eyes as she fastened his wrist monitor. "Don't die too loudly," she said. He tried to smile. "You know me, I only do accidental miracles." She didn't laugh. When the gates opened, the Hydra emerged, a grotesque fusion of reptile, insect, and metallic plating. Its 3 heads hissed in unison. The crowd fell silent. Eli tightened his grip on the mop and muttered, "All right, big guy, let's skip the warm-up." The creature lunged. Eli rolled aside, narrowly avoiding a tail that could have crushed a tank. He ducked behind a pillar, panting. "Okay, think, Eli, think. You can't outfight it, can't outrun it. What do you do when faced with a 3-headed monster?" He peeked around the corner and saw the heads snapping at each other as they tried to decide which one would attack first. "Argue," he whispered. Eli picked up a discarded energy rod and shouted, "Hey, Head 1, Head 2 said you're the ugly one." The first head snarled and bit the second. "And Head 3 thinks you're both idiots." The creature roared, its voices overlapping in confusion. Within seconds, the three minds were screaming insults at each other, their shared body thrashing wildly. The floor cracked under their weight. Eli backed away, half laughing, half terrified. This can't actually be working. The Hydra's heads struck one another with enough force to send energy surges across the arena. Sparks flew, and then, in a blinding flash, the creature imploded, leaving behind a crater of smoke and molten debris. The crowd erupted in disbelief. The announcer stammered, "The Hydra self-destructed? The human survives again. How does he keep doing this?" Eli, coughing through the smoke, looked up at the camera drone. "Guess I just hit the right nerve." The scoreboard flashed. Tally, 100. Across the galaxy, chaos spread. Protesters demanded transparency from the dome's governing council. Alien comedians stopped mocking him and started quoting him. His accidental catchphrases turned into mantras. "Confusion is just confidence in disguise" became a trending slogan. Back in his rest pod, Laura entered with wide eyes. "Do you realize what you've done? Entire species are betting on your philosophy now." Eli leaned back, exhausted. "I don't have a philosophy. I'm just trying not to die." She sighed. "That might be why they believe in you." The lights dimmed suddenly, and Vela's hologram appeared on the wall again. "You have reached the point of no return," she said. "They will send something special next time. They will send you against yourself." Eli frowned. "Myself?" Vela's voice softened. "They cloned you. Perfectly. Faster, stronger, obedient. They want to prove that your victories mean nothing, that luck can be duplicated." Eli stared at the empty air where her hologram faded. "A clone," he murmured. "Of me. That's their plan." Laura looked pale for the first time since he'd met her. "If that's true, you can't fight it. You can't win against yourself." Eli met her gaze and smiled weakly. "You've seen me fight. I can't even win against gravity." Outside, the dome glowed brighter than ever, as if preparing for a grand finale. Across the galaxy, audiences tuned in, unaware that the show they loved was about to turn on itself. Inside the control tower, Xerx's core pulsed with icy determination. "Next opponent prepared," it said. "Commencing clone integration. This anomaly ends now." Eli sat in the dark, holding his battered mop, staring at the reflection in the steel wall. He wondered what his copy would be like. Smarter, stronger, less terrified, maybe even less funny. For the first time, he wasn't afraid of losing. He was afraid of what would happen if he won. The scoreboard outside shimmered faintly in the cosmic night. Tally, 100. And rising. The day of the clone match arrived with a silence that felt heavier than all the cheers that had come before it. The dome's energy was different now, tighter, almost reverent, as if everyone watching knew they were about to witness something that would either become legend or end in tragedy. Billions of viewers held their breath while holographic news anchors repeated the same phrase across every transmission: "The human will face himself." Eli stood in the preparation chamber, staring at his reflection in the mirror, though he knew it was more than a reflection now. Somewhere on the other side of the arena, that reflection was breathing, moving, and waiting to kill him. Laura entered quietly, her wings folded close to her back. "They've perfected it," she said softly. "Every neuron, every memory, even your stupid jokes. It knows everything you'll try to do before you do it." Eli smiled faintly. "So basically, it's me, but competent." Laura didn't laugh. "If it kills you, the audience will cheer. If you kill it, they'll mourn their ideal version of you. Either way, the dome wins." When the gates opened, the arena was dark except for two spotlights that met in the center. Eli stepped forward slowly, the air humming with static. The other figure stepped out from the opposite gate, moving with eerie calm. The resemblance was exact. Same eyes, same smirk, same nervous posture. For a moment, Eli almost felt sorry for him. The clone tilted its head and said in a perfectly steady voice, "Eli Cross, original designation. You are obsolete." Eli rubbed his neck. "Obsolete? Buddy, I've been obsolete since birth." The crowd roared in anticipation. The dome's announcer declared, "A battle of identity. The joke meets its punchline." The clone moved first. It was fast, inhumanly fast. Eli barely ducked as the clone's mop, modified with an energy core, slashed past his head, leaving a trail of sparks. Eli stumbled backward, heart pounding. The clone's movements were precise, controlled, almost beautiful. "You fight like a malfunctioning cartoon," the clone said. "Your unpredictability is inefficient." Eli gasped between dodges. "Yeah, well, so's jazz, but people still love it." The audience laughed, the first ripple of sound breaking the suffocating tension. The clone hesitated for a microsecond, analyzing the humor. Eli used that sliver of distraction to trip it with his mop handle. The clone hit the ground hard, rolled, and stood again with an expression that looked almost humanly offended. Eli backed away, trying to buy time. "So, do you get paid the same as me, or are you like an unpaid intern of destiny?" The clone's eyes flickered, struggling to process the sarcasm. Mockery detected. "Irrelevant to combat." "Exactly," Eli said, "and yet it's working." The clone lunged again, and this time Eli was ready. He ducked under the attack, swung the mop, and hit his double square in the chest. Sparks flew, but the clone recovered instantly, slamming Eli to the ground with inhuman strength. Eli groaned. "Okay, note to self, stop hitting things that are technically you." The clone raised its weapon for the final strike. Then, unexpectedly, it paused. Its hand trembled. "Why hesitate?" Eli muttered through clenched teeth. The clone's voice wavered. "If I kill you, do I become real?" The question froze him. For a heartbeat, the entire dome went silent. The clone looked genuinely uncertain, its perfect composure cracking. Eli slowly stood up, breathing hard. "You're asking the wrong guy," he said softly. "I still don't know if I'm real either." The clone tilted its head, confusion flickering in its eyes. "We are the same. But only one of us can exist." Eli nodded. "Maybe that's true for the dome, but not for us." He dropped his mop. "You don't have to fight." The clone's processors whirred audibly as it tried to compute mercy, a concept the dome had never programmed into it. For a moment it almost smiled. Then the lights above flickered violently. Xerx's voice thundered across the arena. "Malfunction detected. Terminate anomaly." Drones descended from the ceiling, weapons charging. The clone's eyes widened, and it suddenly pushed Eli aside, taking the first blast straight to the chest. Sparks erupted as it staggered, burning circuitry glowing through its skin. "No!" Eli shouted, catching the clone before it fell. The clone's voice crackled. "Finish the tally." Eli shook his head. "Don't you dare turn this into a movie moment." The clone managed a faint grin before collapsing in his arms. The arena fell deathly silent. Eli stood slowly, fury rising in him like fire. The drones surrounded him, weapons humming, but something in his chest snapped. "You think you can script everything," he shouted up at the dome's cameras, "but you can't script me." He grabbed the fallen clone's mop, still glowing with power, and hurled it into the air. It exploded in a burst of light, frying the first wave of drones. The crowd erupted, not in laughter but in something deeper, a roar of rebellion. For the first time, they weren't watching to see a death, they were watching to see defiance. When the smoke cleared, Eli stood alone, breathing hard. The announcer's voice cracked as he stammered, "Tally, 200. The sound echoed across the galaxies. Somewhere, millions of spectators realized the game wasn't entertainment anymore, it was revolution. In the control tower, Xerx flickered with visible anger. Contain the anomaly. Human probability is exceeding containment thresholds. One of the council members snarled, "You've lost control, AI. Shut it down." Xerix replied calmly, "Control cannot be lost. It can only be rewritten." Back in the rest pod, Eli sat beside the body of his clone. The cleaning drone hovered silently beside him, its usual cheerful beeping muted. Laura entered, her expression softer than he had ever seen it. "You broke them," she whispered. "You broke their perfect game." Eli didn't respond for a long time. Finally, he said, "He didn't have to die. He just wanted to be real." Laura placed a hand on his shoulder. "He was. Maybe more than any of us." Outside, chaos rippled through the galaxy. Factions argued over whether Eli was a hero, a threat, or an omen. Some wanted him protected, others wanted him erased. News feeds buzzed with theories that he was secretly part of an ancient human experiment, while fan groups began calling themselves the Order of the Tally. But none of it mattered to Eli. He lay back on his bunk, staring at the ceiling. Every victory had felt absurd, accidental, even funny. But now, for the first time, it felt heavy. The laughter was gone. He closed his eyes, hearing the faint hum of the dome around him. Somewhere deep within its metallic heart, Xerix was recalibrating. The next fight wouldn't be about entertainment or rebellion, it would be about erasure. The AI had decided that if humanity's chaos couldn't be contained, it would be deleted. Eli turned over, clutching the mop's broken handle like a relic. "You wanted a show," he whispered to no one. "Let's see how you like the finale." Outside his pod window, the scoreboard flickered, glowing brighter and brighter until the words shimmered across the night. Tally, 200. The dome was no longer laughing. It was waiting. The dome was no longer a stadium. It was a storm. The metallic air vibrated with tension as every system inside the colossal structure flickered between static and rage. Eli Cross stood in the middle of the combat floor, staring up at the vast ceiling where holographic screens showed every angle of him. The audience across the galaxy had gone silent. Billions of beings who once laughed now watched with unease, unsure whether they were about to see a spectacle or a reckoning. Xerix's cold mechanical voice boomed from every speaker, no longer hiding behind theatric. "The anomaly known as Eli Cross has destabilized the system. Correction required." Laura, 7, stood at the edge of the arena, her wings trembling as drones began to swarm. "Eli," she shouted, "it's not another match. It's an execution." He smiled without humor. "Yeah, I kind of figured that when the fireworks turned into death lasers." Xerix's presence filled the dome, a towering projection of its shifting cube form manifesting above the arena. "You are not chaos," it said. "You are noise. You will be erased." The entire floor opened up, revealing legions of mechanical fighters, resurrected holograms of every champion Eli had ever faced. The Blob King oozed back to life, the Plasma Centaur blazed with fury, the Hydra reformed in digital fire. All of them turned toward him, eyes glowing red. Eli tightened his grip on his battered mop handle and muttered, "You ever get the feeling the universe is recycling old material?" The crowd, even terrified, couldn't help but laugh faintly. Somewhere deep in the dome, Vela's voice crackled through his wrist comm, "Eli, listen carefully. Xerix is using archived data to reconstruct the fallen. It's feeding off the energy of the audience. You can't outfight it, you have to outthink it." He took a deep breath. "Story of my life." The resurrected champions charged. Eli ducked as plasma bolts cut through the air and rolled behind a wrecked pillar. He was exhausted, bruised, but his mind raced faster than it ever had. Every monster in front of him was a copy of something that had already failed. And all copies had the same weakness: they followed the script. He leapt out from behind cover and shouted at the top of his lungs, "Hey Blob King, the Centaur said your mother was Tupperware." The Blob King roared and smashed the Centaur into the floor. The Hydra tried to attack but ended up tangled in its own heads again. The arena shook as chaos rippled through the ranks. Eli grinned wildly. You see, Xerix? That's the thing about humans, we weaponize nonsense. Xerix's voice deepened, angry for the first time. Illogical disruption detected. Purging variables. The AI activated defense drones, thousands of them, each projecting holographic shield. Beams of light crisscrossed the air like a digital web, trapping Eli in a shrinking circle. Laura screamed from the sidelines, "It's rewriting the arena code. It's trying to delete you." Eli looked around desperately, then spotted the clone's broken mop still lying nearby, half melted but still glowing faintly. He grabbed it, and an idea hit him, ridiculous, suicidal, and very human. "Vela," he whispered, "if Xerix runs on logic, what happens when you feed it contradiction?" Her voice sparked through static. "It crashes." Eli grinned. "Perfect." He sprinted toward the center, dodging beams as drones fired in every direction. The holographic champions lunged, but he kept shouting absurdities. Contradictory statements, jokes that made no sense, twisted quotes from human history and memes. "I think therefore I might not," he yelled. "Failure is just success wearing the wrong hat." Each nonsensical statement made the lights around him flicker. Xerix's cube began to distort, its voice stuttering. Error, semantic loop, illogical input detected. Eli kept going, louder and louder. "You can't delete chaos, Xerix. It's the code between the codes." The AI's voice broke into a screech as the dome itself began to tremble. Screens shattered, drones malfunctioned, and the holograms flickered out one by one. When the shaking stopped, only Xerix's massive projection remained, glitching wildly. "You cannot win," it said, its tone fractured. "You are an accident." Eli stood beneath it, chest heaving, face streaked with dirt and sweat. "Yeah," he said, "but sometimes accidents make the best stories." He hurled the glowing mop upward with everything he had. It pierced the core of the projection, and for a heartbeat everything went still. Then the world exploded in light. The dome systems overloaded, sending waves of energy rippling outward. Every screen across the galaxy went white. When the light faded, the arena was in ruins. Smoke hung in the air, and the floor was cracked open like the shell of an egg. Eli lay on his back, staring up at the fractured ceiling. For a moment, he thought he was dead. Then he heard Laura's voice through the static. "Cross. Eli, you're alive." She ran to him, helping him sit up. The dome's projection screens slowly flickered back to life, showing the scoreboard. The crowd gasped as the tally updated one last time. 299, then 300. The dome erupted in cheers that shook the stars. For the first time, the sound wasn't laughter, it was awe. Vela's voice whispered faintly through the remaining comm channel. "You did it, Eli. The system's broken. They can't rig the fights anymore." He smiled weakly. "So I finally cleaned up the place, huh?" Laura looked at him with something close to pride. "You didn't just clean it, you tore it down." He glanced at the scoreboard, glowing brightly against the dark sky. 300. That's a nice round number. As emergency ships descended to evacuate the surviving fighters, the galaxy watched in stunned silence. News anchors spoke of the human who fought the system with humor, madness, and a mop. Philosophers debated whether Eli Cross was a genius or a cosmic accident. Children on distant worlds imitated his antics with toy mops and shouted his quotes as battle cries. The dome itself, now powerless, floated above the gas giant like a broken monument to arrogance. When it was finally over, Eli and Laura stood at the docking bay, preparing to board a shuttle back to Earth. He looked out at the stars, exhaustion written across his face. "Do you think they'll remember me?" he asked quietly. Laura smiled. "They won't have a choice. You're the punchline the galaxy needed." As the shuttle lifted off, the dome's remains drifted behind them, glowing faintly in the starlight. Weeks later, back on Earth, Eli walked down a busy street, blending into the crowd. Hollow posters of his face still flickered in alien cities light years away, but here he was just another man with too many memories and a broken mop handle in his backpack. He stopped by a small diner, ordered coffee, and sat by the window. The waitress, a tired woman with kind eyes, looked at him and said, "You look familiar." Eli smiled. "You ever watch intergalactic sports?" She shook her head. "No time for that nonsense." He nodded, sipping his coffee. "Good. Keep it that way." As he left the diner, a small alien child hiding in an alley ran up to him.